Good evening and welcome to the Poets Cafe, the art of conversation. It is where artists comes alive. The spoken word brings forth the inner creation of hidden treasures, expressing tones of lyrics felt within the soul, the vibration that brings stories untold. This platform represents artists of all backgrounds through various forms of expression, including writers, singers, spoken word artists, and those engaging in artistic expression through painting, literature, poetry, and a journey through life. Mystery seeks to bring new ideas and opportunities to the mind at all levels. Wherefore my time leaving tomorrow on the wings of yesterday, where birds fly higher than the mystery of dreams never knew. Why do mellow sounds ring silently without ever leaving memories of my lonely blues? We walk by the calls of nature, sing in harmony, pray for the love of the sky, and dance with the stars like a feminine ballerina, gazing across the stage in her soft-toed ballerina shoes. Welcome to the Arts of Poetry Cafe show, Poetically Speaking, hosted by Terry Benjamin and Ron C. McCrae. As delighted as we are, we can't wait to embark on a new wave of presenting this platform to our audience. So sit back and enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Now, let's get started.
And before we get started, we want to just let you know our engineer for this evening is Jeff. Also, before we get into today's agenda, I want to shout out to some people, our VIPs, okay? We have quite a few VIPs this evening, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put you in your special section. You right up front there, okay? Because you inspire us, and because you inspire us, we want to give you a shout out. And so in the VIP section tonight, we have Chanel Gilmore, Joanne Blount, Harry Mars, Lakeisha Jenkins, Wayne Spikes, Geneva Drake Johnson, Sylvia Carter, Harry Mars, Wayne Spikes, Daryl Glass, Yvonne Tomlinson, Deborah Dozer, Isu Canty, Poochie Amanda Jones, James Holloway, Shareen Pitt, whoever that is, Bonita Floyd Ward, Jamal Abdullah, Otis R. Baker, Daryl Jackson, Deborah Gissendaner, Forrest Payne, Shumba Zane, Charles Jones, and Geneva Drake Johnson. These are our VIP, very important people to this show. And again, we're here for you. And today's agenda is don't count yourself out, okay? It's never too late. And we're going to expand upon it because we have the author of this particular book. And so we're going to get into that. So again, don't count yourself out. It's never too late. And we're going to get into that a little deeper. The quote of the day: let others lead small lives, but not you. Let others argue over small things, but not you. Let others cry over small hurts, but not you. Let others leave their future in someone else's hand, but not you. And this is from Jim Rohn, who, as I consider, a motivational teacher. And so, again, we have a lot for you, a lot of food for thought. We're going to do Mind, Body, and Books. We have a special book in that particular section about a woman who hasn't given up and been around for a long, long time. But before we get into any of that, we want to bring to you, as we always do in this program at this time, a segment of the program we call Ron's Poetry. So what do you have for us tonight, Ron?
Oh, I have something. And
he always has something.
Matter of fact, it ties into our agenda this evening. And I think because we have so much and it's going to be so interesting that we really want you to be engaged in it. And we know that you're going to be inspired by that. But I'd just like to say a couple of those names sound familiar.
Yes.
I don't know now. It might have been that brother to try to beat me up. But in all jokes aside, just kidding.
Small world.
Just like to read something here, and this is interesting. And the title of this one is A Troubled Soul, because as you were just reading in reference to the motivational speaker, but not you. Okay, so each individual have their way of seeing something. But let me just read this. A troubled soul. A state of unforgiving sin, a troubled soul caring for self rather than focusing on those less educated, in knowing the difference between their left and right hand. A state of ignorance. Yet God is a God for all people, not just one. God points out of savings those in a state of despair in a city of Neviah. Are you more concerned about your life than those around you with less, regardless of how you feel? And the cry of many are burdened with tumultuous condition, struggling to survive in a place where love, peace, and harmony should reign over with God's blessing. Instead, those in control thought it not unreasonable to gain power over the weak, keeping them in submission without cause. But God knew and heard their silent cry and called Jonah, who instead of responding to in obedience, fled until he realized he could run. He could run, but had no place to hide. Now he wanted God to take his life. Fighting against God's call is beyond impossible. When God calls you, answer in obedience. Jonah wanted to die rather than face responsibilities. Too often many commit suicide instead of yielding to God for help. Jonah 1 and 4 chapter. Moses was reluctant to go to Pharaoh. Gideon refused to go and fight until Deborah stepped in. Ananias was unwilling to approach Saul. Peter denied Jesus, and David wanted to run and hide in fear of others until they surrendered to the call. Saul, now Paul, had his conversion on the road to Damascus, which changed his life. Acts 10. And so I want to end with that, which is the whole piece, but tie into, but not you. Don't be one of those who running from. Don't be one of those who get caught up in somebody else's stuff. You see, but not you. So, but answer the call. When that thought, that vision, that dreams come to you, answer the call. Because you don't want somebody to read that newspaper, that article, or in somebody else's book, somebody else's journal, but not you. That's right. It's not about you. So again, think about it.
Yeah, because again, sometimes when you have these ideas for a book or a poem or a play or a movie or a novel or whatever, you need to hold on, grab onto that particular idea and really, put it down and work on it. Because what happens a lot of times, there's different ideas in the air and the ether or whatnot. And it's so sad when you have such a great idea and you find somebody else doing it because you didn't develop to where it's supposed to be. Again, like I said in a quote, let other people live unfulfilled lives, but not you.
But not you.
Not you.
Everybody that he called those names, but not you.
Not you.
I know you know somebody, but not you.
That's you.
Let me read this. This also I feel and believe ties in memories of a loss. Memories can never be found or regained for a fresh start. The lost and found department has closed its doors, and the attendees have moved on, no longer seeking another chance to relieve what they believe was just a dream, still forgetting about the past. Mm-hmm. Memories are meant to be lived in the moment. Appreciate every second without regrets for what has yet to be ignored. Mm-hmm. Memories of those lost have been carried away by the winds of time, leaving no chance to go back and reclaim what should have been fulfilled when the doors of opportunity knocks on the window pane. Let me in. Walking backwards towards the shadows of darkness, blinded by the illusion illusion that highs will be okay, until the brain shifts in another direction by the same voice telling me, don't quit, you can do it, and you can change the way you feel, only to find out that those voices were the same ones that killed my opportunity to see a brighter light, except to leave the lost for another way to escape this burden of pain. The gloomy clouds beneath the sunlight are what I try to remember about what the height is really about. As I sit pondering that life is fair, I cannot see the future rushing past faster than I can blink. Another thought crosses my mind, how to move from this place which haunts me with the idea that I might succeed if I can only reach the gate where belief calls my name. Still, I won't wake up to my own reality, and time keeps fading away. No one will miss me until I am gone, as the mail of the sad news is delivered to the address I never lived at. Crisis reveals hidden pain of suffering lurking behind the thoughts that everything one dreams and believes life is fair and good, except for mine. When the transportation never arrives to give a chance to feel free, my challenges caught me off guard, leaving me without the opportunity to regain focus and unsure how to move forward with a helping hand that was never offered. So, why should I cry, worry, or stay mad when opportunity says I can walk away from this isolated feeling where even distraction doesn't want to bother trying to stay afloat in a world drowning in its own delusional thinking?
Wow.
So all that ties in, and it's what's important. Yeah. And again, with that, but not you.
You know, it's so funny because that does tie in perfectly what we're doing. Again, the day's agenda is don't count yourself out, and what you were just reading really ties into that really good. And then again, we have our special guest that will bring all this full circle.
Yes, at this time, I want to give an introduction. As we always say that here, our guests, we respect their titles and position. But here on this show, we always identify and let them know this is family, about brothers and sisters. Right. So here we have a sister, a wonderful sister. She's an author. She's a creator. Mm-hmm. She's a motivator, opportunist. She's an entrepreneur. She's everything under the sun, no matter how you look at it. So let me read this, and I'm serious. About the author. SHAREEN Clarke was born and raised in Plainfield, New Jersey. Growing up, she loved her family and having fun. After attending high school, she started writing in various genres. Her career as an administrative assistant started after she graduated from Satone Institute. A year later, she landed her first permanent job with the Plainfield Police Department in the Plainfield Division in the Police Department, New Jersey, in Plainfield, New Jersey. I apologize. After nearly 10 years of working as an administrative assistant in the Detective Bureau, she was unfortunately laid off. This began a journey that she always dreamed. Attending college, she began her studies at Union County College. After graduating from UCC, she attended and graduated from Montclair State University in 2017 with a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in filming. Currently, she has started her own business, a company called Purple Sky Production, LLC. As a producer, director, and writer, she has worked on the hit TV show The Enemy Within, as a production assistant, and with the stars of that show, Morris Chestnut and Jennifer Carpenter. As producer, director, and writer, she has produced the short film Unemployed. She is the proud mother of two wonderful children. Her son will be graduating from Roman University at that time, 2020. Also, her daughter will be graduating from Union County College in 2020. And then transferring to a 4-year college. So at this time, I'd like to continue in short before we introduce our guest. On the back here of her book, Why Do We Let Our Trials Get the Best of Us? Yes, I have been there too. Let's get the best out of our trials. Use your bad situation for your advantage. I am not saying use it as a crutch, but find some good in your worst trials and tribulations. Truth be told, some of us could have found our pot of gold, but we rather sulk and count ourselves out. If you are still breathing, you can still fight and find your inner strength. Just because you are down right now, don't ever count yourself out. At this time, I will guest our sister, SHAREEN Clarke. That's the sister. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mr. Ron and Mr. Terry. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. And it's so funny, again, as Ron said, we all go way back. I mean, we were
Right.
with you at the birth of this particular book.
Right.
And also we have our VIPs are actually, got their hands waved up here. And Mary McDonald Swindell says, hello, family.
Hey.
And she said, my niece, great producer, SHAREEN. And she says, listening by the way of Facebook, Jacqueline Jenkins, she said, I was thinking about family. Cherish your family because it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Hold on to it. Okay, so again, Jacqueline Jenkins, thank you. Mary McDonald Swindell, thank you. SHAREEN, thank you. And thank you for this book because this book was actually produced in 2019.
Yes.
And it's so funny because, when you had published the book and then we talked about it, we did some book signings and that kind of thing, I told you this was a classic, and I'm so glad that you're taking this a little further, which we'll talk about a little later in the program.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the first thing that I want to just throw out to you, because you're a business owner, and my question to you is, how do you measure your success? When do you say I'm a success in my business? What does that look like?
I feel like, when I get that is, I have a big heart. So, when I'm able to help those, especially, single moms, because, struggling, I've been there, done that, so when I get to that point, when I can really give back the way that I want to, then I feel like I'm successful.
And the thing is that I want you to understand that, don't count yourself out because you've been doing what you've been doing for some time. And the bio that we read was really from this book here.
Right.
But since you've done the book, you've done other things because you've been in photography, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've done video production,
Yes.
right? You even done took a stab at podcasting. So I want you to catch us up on what you've been doing.
Sure. So, yes, we did a little bit of podcasting. It's short-lived only because of schedules. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because everybody's like, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got enough in you. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do it by myself. But you know what? When it's God's time and, when things don't work out with others, you got to do it.
Yeah.
So, I'm definitely, working on a YouTube channel.
Okay.
I'm working on, just a lot of things. I mean, that's like a loaded question for me.
Yeah.
But, the book, many things is revolving around the book. And so we're working on, a lot of that. So, it's kind of like pivoting a little bit, because this is my purpose, my God-given purpose.
But you also have a photography company, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit.
so SHAREEN Malika Photography, and we do weddings and events. We do portraits, and right now we're in basketball season.
Okay.
So I film the basketball games for playing for high school. So do a lot of different things.
And again, I'm looking in our VIP section, and
Okay.
Kenneth McDonald says, "That's my cousin."
Hey, cuz.
So Kenneth just had to get that in there, But again, and again, our VIP are very important people. Again, we're all part of a family, and that's why we have you come on the show because we want people to know what you're doing.
Right.
Thank
you.
And it's so funny because I'm the type of person, and Ron attests to this, is that whatever you do, just keep on doing it, okay? Because it's never hit or miss because you never know who's watching, who's looking, and who can help you. And sometimes it's all about timing.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe the timing wasn't right for this particular project, but now maybe it is.
Yeah.
And as we go into the new year, I can't believe it's December, but as we go into the new year and new plans.
26, yes, absolutely.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely. Again, a lot is, revolving around the book, so there's a lot of new things, that's coming and I'm doing, with the book. Like I said, it's don't count yourself out. It's a movement,
okay.
that I'm starting. So, it's bigger than me. So,
yeah. Well, that's the thing, because that's what you never know.
Right.
And Mary McDonald Swindell says, "Your mom told me to say hello, daughter." I'm also representing your mom and dad.
Awesome.
Because so Mary's doing double duty right here.
Yeah. Yes.
Because it's so funny because we had Mary not on the program not too long ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then we have Brian, who you've done work with.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, you did podcasts with Brian.
Brian, yes.
Right, And what was that podcast?
That podcast was the 4-Eat podcast.
Okay.
And again, it was just a timing thing, but it was going very well. It was amazing. So hopefully we can jump back in there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but see, people understand, sometimes when you have a second chance, it's not really a second chance because, again, people they say second chance is almost like you're starting from scratch.
Right.
You're starting from where you left off.
Absolutely.
So again, the podcast you did, all the things you did, that's experience that you can build on.
Absolutely.
So you're not starting from the beginning.
Right.
I mean, you're not an amateur.
Right.
You're not a rookie.
Right.
You've been doing this for some time.
Yes.
And what happens? So you're really starting from that level.
Yeah.
You're not going all the way back. And so that's why we say, don't count yourself out. Because there's still more for you to do.
Yes.
But what say you, Brother Ron?
And it's interesting because we often talk about, not too long, we talked about, a purpose. And as you say, and I want to tie two things in. First of all, God's blessing is like raindrops, and each raindrop has 1,000 little drops in it, because once it's splashed, it's shattered.
Exactly.
So if you count each one, that means you cannot begin to comprehend all that God's blessing has bestowed upon each and every one of His created design, and that is us. So as you indicated, too many say, well, I'm overwhelmed. No, much is given, much is required. If you want blessing, you ask God, He said, no, He'll open up the windows of many blessings. But the whole thing is not trying to grab it all at one time. It's not about being selfish or greedy. It's about spreading the wealth, the blessing, because somebody else is trying to get a little raindrop.
Right.
But don't deny that one person a raindrop and watch them dehydrate themselves to death. And that's what I was reading. You see, so that's what's important. Again, business is on every level, opportunities and blessing. So as this sister said, and as she is doing, you and I and everybody else, hey, somebody else looking for the opportunity. Open up the door for opportunity, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, because I think that collaboration is key. Nobody does what we do here. We don't do it by ourselves.
Right.
We have a whole team behind us. And I want to just pivot because I want to get to you and the other part of your story, but don't count yourself out. I want to go to a segment we call Mind, Body, and Books. And in that segment, what I do is I share some books from my own personal library. Because again, we talk about developing the habit of literacy, and what I mean by that is every day you do some reading, some writing, some talking, some listening, and some viewing.
Yes.
Okay, and what I suggest, and it's not that hard, to read 2 books a week, and you can cheat, you can do 2 audiobooks. How about that? But at least 2 books a week. And what I would suggest is a fiction book and a nonfiction book. And my fiction book this week is called An Honorable Assassin. It's a Nick Mason novel by Steve Hamilton. And this is for the fellas, man. This is action-packed, This is about a guy, who finds himself in a very difficult situation, but he has to do something about it. And from the book, it says here, from 2-time Edgar Award-winning author Steve Hamilton, An Honorable Assassin is another terrifying thriller featuring the unstoppable Nick Mason. And again, it is a lot of action. It's almost like reading this book is almost like watching a movie, one of those action films. I think the guys would like this. So this is a Honorable Assassin, a Nick Mason novel by Steve Hamilton. This is the 3rd book in the Nick Mason series. And the second book is really special to me because I know a lot of people help put this book together, namely Angelo Ellaby, who's a fashion icon in Newark. And his team put together this particular book honoring a woman who I've followed for a long, long time. And I'm glad that she's still around. And her name is Melba Moore. And the name of her book is This Is It, Marvelous and Getting Better. This is Melba Moore with Kevin E. Taylor. And I tell you, Ron, man, this is a book I said I'm just going to look at this book, maybe, read a couple of paragraphs. Man, I read this whole book, man, And I mean, it's not that long, but it's 167 pages, but it's so jam packed with just her testimony, and also with her what she's done. Man, I just can't believe you know. And I just want to just share a paragraph from the book. It says here, "My faith helps me to work with people because nobody works for me, but I don't work for them either. We are walking together and walking together for a vision. That's true for all of us. I want more, but we cannot do that, doing things the same. In order to have new moments and new magic, we have to be willing to grow. We bring our gifts to the table and see if we are called to work together and be commissioned to do something new. We help each other to build, and that encourages me to see things from new points of view. There's something that is really important in this new era of access and social media and new media. And young people who can send you a track online and record your vocals without even being in the same studio or city. As they said on Glory, it takes the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy." And I love her for saying that. And I love the fact that she has this new book, and she is 80 years old, still performing. I mean, she's out there with Patti LaBelle and Gladys Knight, you know, all these women still doing it, you know. But she says in the book she had to change her eating habits, she had to do exercising, that kind of thing, but she's still doing it. And this book is just so inspiring to me, and should be inspiring to you. And so that's Mind, Body, and Books. Before we go on, I want to just stop here. And Jacqueline Jenkins says here, "And God gives us the gift to grow his kingdom. Reach down and pull someone up. Thank you, my amazing brothers, for a great discussion." And thank you, Jacqueline Jenkins. Jacqueline was a guest on one of our programs. And again, another sister, man, you know, who's doing her thing and helping people. You know, I think that's what motivates me. Okay, if I was just doing this for myself, I would get bored very quickly. But because I know there's people out there who need to see us doing, you know, I'm not in my 80s, you know, I'm in my 70s. But when I see testimonies like this, I know that we're not done. And at this particular point, definitely making a big pivot. But man, this is I've been waiting for this. Okay, I've been waiting for this for some time, and you know, I subtitle this, "Where do we go from here?" Okay, because we've come to a certain point, we come to a certain plateau, but we can't rest. We can't rest. It's not time for a nap. There's more work to be done. Don't count yourself out. And this is Don't Count Yourself Out 2.0. Yes, there is a sequel to this book, and that's what we're going to talk about. I mean, I'm getting so emotional, only because this is, again, it's a beautiful thing. And we have the author here. We have SHAREEN Clark here, and she's going to introduce to us this evening what did I say, revision or update or what, I don't know what it is, but it is taking the whole idea, this whole concept of Don't Count Yourself Out. We're going to take it to the next level, okay? Yes. And SHAREEN, you're going to help us do that. So show us the new cover. Let's have the reveal, okay? there you go. And it says here, "Don't count yourself out. Your story isn't over. Find hope today." And so, SHAREEN, would you share with us something from that book? Read us a little portion, because again, I want you to get this book, okay? But she's going to share a couple of pages from that particular book. So we're going to put the spotlight on SHAREEN Clark.
I'm in the hot seat. Okay. All right. So I'll read. You said 158, right? Page 158?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
We're going to read a little bit. So here we go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. "God is the real reason I have made it through thus far. If it wasn't for his patience, grace, mercy, and favor, I wouldn't be here today. I would have died a long time ago when I used to suffer from asthma attacks. I survived. I have a purpose for living. So do you. So shake off the depression. Get rid of the stress. It can be done no matter what situation you find yourself in. You are stronger than you think. Through Christ, you can do all things. He won't leave you nor forsake you. Sometimes God takes foolish things to confound the wise. He turns your bad into good all the time. Sometimes he takes things away to give us better. He does things that we can't understand. I say, hold on, my brother. Hold on, my sister. God has not forgotten you. Just like the woman with the issue of blood, she had an issue for 12 long years. She pressed her way to touch the hem of his garment. Once she did, she was made whole. Read your story. Read your story in Luke. I'm sorry. Read her story in Luke 8:43 to 48. In all of that I went through, it has made me into who I am today. I had to realize that God was shaping and molding me for the work he has for me. Just like the olive, they have to be pressed so the oil can come out. I had to be pressed. My oil could come running out. That anointing that he has placed on people's lives, it's the price we have to pay to become who we ought to be. I learned many life lessons too. They were hard lessons, but I think I learned from it. I only take one day at a time for me to, it only takes me one day, one time for me to learn. I know that God has so much in store for me. Had I given up and thrown in the towel, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have seen the fruits of my hard labor. I know now why. The pressure was so high. I now know that God had a purpose and a plan. When going through it, we may not understand the whys. When God does it, it's mighty sweet. Had I let my problems and trials get the best of me, I wouldn't have made it thus far. If I was no good for my kids, where would they be today? They could have went astray at a young age. They could be running amok. They wouldn't be in college today. Well, they've graduated. Thank you, Lord.
Oh, thank you, God.
They would be just another statistic. Those situations have prepared me to help someone else. It's not about me, but about me encouraging others to want to live. I know now what my purpose is in life. He elected me because he knew I could, at some point, handle the struggle. Woo. He knew with his strength, I wouldn't give up. I also had to forgive my ex-husband so I could move on in this life. If you're family or a friend, then you know the both of us. The lesson is don't hold any grudges or feel some type of way. After reading my testimony, this stuff happened years ago. Don't let it upset you. I had to let it all go. Holding grudges and bitterness in your heart is not good at all. I need to flow and need nothing to hinder me. I remember reading in Exodus when God made Pharaoh's heart hard and wouldn't let his people go. I thought that in my own situation, God uses what he wants to get the glory and for you to get on the right track. He will use anything or anyone to get our attention. Get your attention to do better. Get your attention to hear and see him. Get your attention to get moving and do the work he called you to do. He does whatever he wants to do. It is us who has to come to grips with that. He's a sovereign God.
I tell you, boy, that really hit my heart there, you know. And again, like I said, the first edition of this book was in 2019, and you revisited it with a new cover and a new attitude. And I guess my question to you is, what made you go back to this?
What made me go back to it is, I think I was in a place where I was in a quiet place, and God just spoke to me, and I redid the cover. And it's not just about the book, but it's a time, for me to get into the ministry and tell people, listen, don't count yourself out. Too many times, we're counting ourselves out. The time that we're living in it's crazy. And it's hard.
Yes,
It's hard. And it's just a testament. Just to tell people, listen, no matter what you're going through, you can still make it. You can, with God, everything is possible.
Yeah.
And, it just felt like, it was just time for me to pivot, time to change, time to shift. And I don't know, it just came, and I'm like, okay, let me get up, let me do it. And ideas, kept coming, and like I said, it's not just about, just the book, but, I have a 30-day devotional book coming, a workbook coming, so it's going to be, something that's just different, and it's going to come with a lot of stuff. And, I had to just sit and like, wow, am I really ready for this? But, you just got to be ready, and I had someone, say to me, because they read the book. And, she was like, this is your story, and she was like, this is it, and she, she said to me, and sometimes you don't know, what people think about you or, what they're going to say, but she sent me a text and said, Shareen, I read your book. And she says, you are a gift to the world.
Okay.
And I said, wow, and I said to her, I said, thank you. I said, because that's confirmation.
Yeah.
Confirmation, because I had already started working on, getting it, back out.
But like my brother said this evening, he said, those who are given much is expected.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
much is required, much is required. If you ask God, if you ask anyone, it's required for you to fulfill, to carry on. But it's not about a greedy person or somebody who's trifling, just want to hoard something. Well, give me. It doesn't work that way. If I help you, you help somebody. And that's how the blessings continue to flow, as this sister indicated. And it was because of her spirituality and her relationship and her connection that brought her to a place to sit down and ponder upon her own thoughts and her inner self to answer the call. One of the most important, answer the call. So she had no choice. At least that's what she believed. And she believes that today. She had no choice. And that's how she wrote her book, her stories, and everything else that came to her and that is in the palm of her hands right now. But those are blessings to be passed on to somebody else.
Yeah. And again, we have more VIPs coming in. Tisha Wyatt says, next level, finding hope. Chanel Gilmore says, congratulations. Mary McDowell Swindell, if it starts with us, first you have to do it. And also Mary says, thank you, Terry, Ron. And she says, still working on my third book.
Yes.
So she has another book coming out too. But there's other gems within the book.
Yes.
And Ron picked out some things that I know, because again, this is a book where you don't read this book just once. You read it several times, and I know for myself, because just preparing for this particular program, I read it again, and it's so funny. I think it's all about timing, because it's just like the Bible.
Yeah.
You can read a scripture when you're a kid, and you can read a scripture when you're a young adult, and then when you read a scripture when you're an old adult, and all those three phases, it means different things.
Yes.
Okay, because you have a different mindset. But Ron found some things that we want to share with you right now.
Yes, I'd like to read something. This is out of your book on page 72, chapter 7.
Okay.
And this ties into our audience as well as my question to the author who will respond. And so the title of this, what will you choose? We all fall short. We all make mistakes. The purpose of mistake is to learn from them. Don't get caught up making the same mistake twice. Please learn the first time. Most of all, learn from another person's mistake. Find a role model. Find a mentor. Someone you can trust and talk to them. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Remember, someone else is always going through something worse than you. When you feel down and low, find someone to help you. Don't go through it alone. Young ladies, Talk to your parents. Tell them what's on your mind. I know it's hard, but once you do, you may feel better. You won't know the outcome unless you try, depending upon what the issue is. They will get mad, but it can and will get better. If you can't talk to your parents, please find someone. On the same token, listen to your parents. They have been where you are and beyond. Most of the time, the apple doesn't fall from the tree. Some of what you are going through or have done is the same thing they may have done. Some things are in the family genes and traits that you get from your parents or someone down the family line. Most of the time, parents get mad and upset because they want the best for you. They want the best for your life. They had messed up too when they were younger, but don't want you to make those very same mistakes. They know how hard it was for them. They don't want you to go through what they've been through. On the other note, most of what we all deal with is the consequences from the choices we've made, whether they are good or bad. We all have the ability to choose right or wrong. In all that we go through, it's essential for us to band together to help one another. I don't want to hear that another young person has committed suicide, nor do I want to hear about senseless killing. It must stop. We should be helping each other, not killing each other or ourselves. It's like being in a war, and we are killing ourselves to make it easier for our opponents to conquer and win. And I read that because, again, it ties into our conversation. And the one piece, too, and unfortunately, this situation happens on a regular basis. Those committing suicide. And age has nothing to do with the situation. It happens on all levels, whether we just recently heard of a teenager or an older person, and even personal friends of mine I have also experienced from that tragedy and situation. So I'd like to hear from the author's perspective, what was it that put her in that place to write those stories, that statement, to bring to life those who are struggling, with situation. And as I read, as we all know, our parents tried to do this, and they was going through different things. Mm-hmm. But we cannot begin what they was going through. But they tried to guide us to learn and understand our own journey without getting lost in the system. The system is in the world, because the word says to be in the world and not of it. And unfortunately, it's one of the biggest issues today is people get caught up in the world. Mm-hmm. So my sister, in short, or tell us from your perspective, what was it that you were feeling or led you to writing that chapter?
Yeah, beautiful.
I think from, working at the police department, I've seen a lot, I've heard a lot.
Yes.
And, the stories, I was working in, the detective bureau. So, and we've had, under us, there was the adults, juvenile, domestic violence. Mm-hmm. And, when you're talking about, real life situations, mm-hmm. The stuff that, you see on TV and, the news, when you step in, the office, this is real life. This is not made up stories, and so it gave me, a whole different, perspective on life. Then when I got laid off and went to school, as an adult, mm-hmm. and going to school, with younger teenagers, mm-hmm. And just seeing, how, some of them was just going through different things. I saw a young lady, I had went when I was at Montclair State University, it was beautiful scenery. I walked over, when it's behind the building, mm-hmm. But I walked over just to look out, and, you can see New York from there, and it's beautiful. And, I turned around, and I seen this, young lady, she was crying. And, I went over to her, I'm like, are you okay? Mm-hmm. What's going on? And, she didn't say much. But, I just began to talk to her, and I asked her, do you want me to pray with you? So I prayed with her, and, you know, when you're an adult, you know, and you go back to school, you know, and you see the young kids, you know, and the things that they're going through, you know, it just gives you a whole different, you know, look, you know, outlook on life and different things, you know, and I don't know all that she was going through, you know, but, you know, just, you know, those things, you know, that I've seen, you know, and, you know, my job that I had to do, you know, I had to read and input, you know, from the reports, you know, and it was, you know, heartbreaking, you know, some of the things, you know, that I had to read, had to see, you know, it was very heartbreaking. So, you know, I'm like, I just want to, you know, write something, you know, hopefully, you know, encourage people, you know, just to hang on, you know, find somebody to talk to, you know, your parents, somebody.
Somebody,
you know?
somebody.
Yeah, so,
but one of the things that I like about your story is, again, like I said, you were laid off from a job. You went back to school.
Yes.
And then that led you to other things. And one of the things that I want to talk about before we go on, because while you were in school, you did your first film.
Yes.
Right. And so tell us a little bit about your first film.
So it's funny how that came about. So when I got laid off, you know, I went through unemployment. You know, when I decided, I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to jump into another job yet. You know, you know, we pay into these things. So I said, I'm going to collect my unemployment.
You deserve.
You know, and they had a program, you know, where they would pay for you to go to school. And so I did that. But they told me that, you know, you have to, you know, do a major of what you have just, you know, been laid off for. So I had to do business. Okay. So, you know, I was a business major. And, you know, as a little kid, you know, I was always fascinated of how they, you know, made movies and, you know, the Thriller, the making of Thriller, the making of, you know, different things. And I would watch it. And I would be so fascinated with it. And so I took an intro to film class. And that just sparked that passion. And, you know, I went to, I guess, I don't remember. I think he was my guidance counselor, you know, and he was also, you know, that professor. And, you know, I went to him and I said, you know, I think I want to change my major. You know, I said, but, you know, maybe I can do both. You know, so he said to me, he said, you know, you playing it, you know, safe if you want to do it both. He was like, you'll be fine. You know, decide, you know, what you want to do. He said, if you want to do film, he said, I think you'll be fine. And so he said, I'm going to give you a weekend, give you this weekend. And, you know, I want you to think about it. And so I said, okay. And so it was over the weekend. Wow. And I will never forget this. I will never forget it. You know, and I said, God, you know, what shall I do? And, you know, we had our banquet for our pastor that year, and this was in 2012. And as soon as I walked in, you know, Chantel, you know, she does all the banquet stuff at my church. Yeah. And, you know, she had these booklets, and it was all movie symbols in the booklet. Okay. And I'm saying, wow. I said, okay, it's my sign. It's my sign. You know, and it, you know, it's something that, you know, she never even did before. What? So I'm like, okay, you know, I'm looking, you know, and I still have it today because, you know, that was just that was a pivotal moment. Yes. You know, because I'm like, you know, I was a kind of, you know, I guess what I'm gonna say, afraid. You were not sure. Yes. You know, because I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do with this if I do this? And I mean, I was just like, wow. So that Monday, I went to my, you know, professor. I said, I'm switching. I said, I'm ready. I'm doing it. I'm jumping in it. So he says, okay, no problem. He's like, you know, you have to do an independent study with me. I said, okay, no problem. And so I had to do a short film, you know, to graduate out of, you know, that class. You know, we went over some things or whatever. And, you know, he loved it, you know, and he told, you know, on graduation day, he told my family, he said she could write her own ticket, you know, and that same short film got me accepted into Montclair State University. Oh, okay. So that's how I got started. Yeah.
And the name of that film was?
The first Mystery Guy. Okay. That was the first one.
That's the first one. Huh?
And then Unemployed was the one from Montclair State University. Okay.
And that's the one that was at film festivals.
Film festivals, yes.
And that type of thing, you know.
Yes, that's the one that we're continuing. You know, we're making a TV series out of that one.
Oh, okay.
Unemployed.
Okay. So you go from a short film to a TV series.
Absolutely,
you know? Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, she's not new to TV. As a matter of fact, sometime when I introduce SHAREEN Clark, I talk about the dream job that she had, you know. And when I talk about this dream job, a lot of women get mad at me because she was working with the heartthrob. Some of you know him as Morris Chestnut. So how do you get to work? I'm making a lot of women mad here. You know. How do you get to work with Morris Chestnut?
Well, you know, after I graduated from Montclair State University, one of my professors, you know, they told us about an opportunity. And, you know, so, you know, I went after the opportunity, went to the meeting, you know, filled out, you know, the application, whatever we need to, you know, I was one of the ones selected, you know, to work on that NBC show. And, you know, it was amazing. You know, and, you know, it I would say it was a dream job, you know, and, you know, the crazy thing was, you know, she mentioned his name, but I didn't know that he was actually a part of the show. You know, I thought she was talking about something different. You know, so when, you know, my first day there and, you know, we had went to Newark Airport to do a scene, you know, and he steps out and I'm like, whoa, okay, this is serious. Like, this is a serious job right here. You know, so that was, you know, my first day, you know, and it was just amazing, you know, because it wasn't just him, you know, it was a lot of other, you know, heavy hitters, you know, in the industry, you know, producers, directors, you know, people that, you know, it was just amazing, you know.
And what was the name of that series?
The Enemy Within.
Right. And unfortunately, you know, VIP family and whatnot, this show only lasted for one season. It wasn't renewed, and so that was it. Maybe you can find it on YouTube or whatever. But again, it's a situation where you've had that experience, and I'm going to prophesy something here. You know, Morris Chestnut. Okay, you know him, he knows you. When you start getting there, making full length feature films, don't be surprised if that might swing back to you.
That's fine.
No, because I mean, I met him. You know, I met him. He did play at Newark Symphony Hall back in the day. Met him, talked with him. Nice guy, married to the same woman for many, many years, and I just got the sense that here's a man that will help you if you need help. So I prophesize that one day you're going to need some help, and Morris Chestnut is going to come to the rescue.
I receive it. You know, I mean, you know, it's funny that you mentioned that because, you know, like I worked with him every day. And so, you know, with working with him every day, you know, I had a chance to, you know, one day sit down and talk to him for about maybe a half an hour, you know, and, you know, I asked him, you know, what would you want to do after, you know, produce, direct, you know, he said, I would love to direct, you know, so, you know, we had a conversation. I said, well, listen, you know, I'm working on, you know, some projects, you know, and stuff like that, you know, and it's funny too, because I was, you know, on set and I was, you know, on my lockup. And you know, he was walking past, you know, because we had cut at that time, and so you know they go in there, you know, breaks until you know we change, you know, the scene, and you know he's walking past me and I'm writing, and it's funny because he was like, "What are you doing?" And so you know I said, "Well, you know, I'm writing my book." You know, I was actually finishing up this
prophecy.
Book. I was actually finishing up the book while I was working on set, you know, in between the times. Because at that point I knew, you know, it's time to get this done, it's finished. Because I started in 2014, you know, and I wasn't doing it, you know, I was just picking it up here and there, you know, and then I said, no, it's time to finish. And, you know, I had a little notebook. And I was just writing. It was just flowing, you know. And it's just funny how you mentioned that, you know.
Well, again, I don't think these things are by accident. I think it's all the grand design. Mary McDonald Swindell says, I was excited to be in this short movie, Unemployment.
Yes,
and she was in the movie. It seems it's almost coming full circle. And SHAREEN Clark, alias SHAREEN Pitt.
That's my maiden name.
Yeah, maiden name. Yeah, I was just messing with you. We're almost out of time. Yeah. We got about like 5 minutes, and I give him the task of wrapping things up and taking us out of here. But SHAREEN, thank you so much for being our guest tonight, and we'll have you back when you get that movie with you and Morris Chestnut.
And before I read this, it's truly a pleasure, and we say it all the time. You never know who you might meet along the way. You just don't know. Even though you meet and have met on this level, they themselves still struggling with different things and ideas and on another journey on that platform. We're just trying to get to the next round. Every round goes higher and higher. So by the time any one of us get to that round, it starts all over. But it doesn't start all over as a beginning. It starts all over with what you have been handed with and the opportunity, the tools that you have in your hands. Open it up. Open it up, no matter how you look at it, and follow and answer the call. I say it all the time, answer the call, because SHAREEN answered the call and she responded. Let me read this. Ties in. Following the waves. Following the waves of time, feeling the mist of reminiscing as the rising flows cascade across each rhythm, seeking a note heard before the swell began to roll. Time passes leading to forgetfulness, and moods shift into a zone where memories seek new path. The gate swings wide open for a new adventure, marking a fresh step on the walk to fame. Following the rising tide to new heights and tends to remember how far it took to reach where the sun seems to vanish into the sunset as the moon leaves the darkness. To embrace each new opportunity to gain life from a different perspective for rejuvenation, to spark a new chapter in a story that has already been written. Just the audio book inside the mind of the mystery suspense for someone to leave the room. Following the footsteps into another room where solitude pauses to listen and captures the sound of a gentle breeze, caressing the shoulders of time to forget where yesterday came from. The shadows of a cup of tea softly lies across the matted table, and the mind drifts in the atmosphere, waiting for the moon to rise. No worries. Ring the bell as the body is tossed over for the full journey to begin another phase and forget the now today. What do we recall from the art of mature conversation with close friends, taking time to laugh at the legacy of yesterday's journey through time, where old school shows us what the future was then and what we understand now? Our minds never forget how far we've come to access a wagon headed towards a new day and moment in time, in the midst of somewheres yet to be told. Where are you headed? Where do you want to go? A lost phase in time leaves no feelings empty, sheltered by the storms of confusion with a hidden agenda that never allows one to remember the true identity of self. I cannot wake up from this nightmare of feelings so hopeless, while despair takes over the best of who I am. Why, as I hold my head between my fingers in breaking down, losing control of living now, do I say why? And who will listen before the waves wash away? It is truly a pleasure and opportunity to have our guests, and as we always extend to you, we thank you for coming on this show and listening to us. We thank you for your comments. Until we meet again, until we listen to each other. Again, do not allow yourself to stop. Answer the call and fulfill your dreams no matter what, because somebody standing next to you is there to help you, lift you up, because you never know who you might meet or who you might help along the way.
Yeah, so don't give up on yourself. Pat Yu says keep moving forward. Mary McDonald Swindell says I have enjoyed your program. Raqueline Diaza says wonderful show, Plainfield's finest.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.